Good morning from Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. I am Elisabeth Robert. I coordinate the course, the online course on gender responsive budgeting analysis and strategies from theory to practice. We are now in the 7th week of our course, and today is our second web conference. After our first conference on experiences in Latin America and the Caribbean, we will now hear about the experience of the city-state of Berlin in Germany. I would like to thank Mr. Klaus Fehler for accepting our invitation. We know he's very busy and it's an honor to count with his presentation today. He will have to leave us at 11, so we will have 1 hour in total for presentation and questions. Mr. Klaus Fehler serves as a state secretary for finance in the Senate of Berlin since 2012. Before that, he was head of the budget department and leader of the working group on gender budgeting of the Senate Administration for Finance in Berlin for 10 years. So as usual, our team is also connected. We have Margarita Osonas, who is the moderator of our course, and Stephanie Kundakjian, who supports us. Before giving the microphone to Mr. Klaus, I will show you how to post your comments and questions in the program. As you know, you have a menu in the GoToWebinar programs. So you can click on the block called Questions, open it, and post your questions. Stephanie will put them together and she will show them at the end of Mr. Fehler's presentation so that he can answer them. At the end, Margarita will do a little wrap-up, and we think we will have to close at 11, as I told you. So without any... Okay, this is how it works. So do not hesitate to put comments or questions, and Mr. Fehler will be happy to respond to them. So I give now the microphone to Mr. Fehler so that he can start the presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Please, would you be so kind and show the first slide? Yes, this is I'm speaking about gender budgeting in the city-state of Berlin in Germany. First, I'd like to introduce you, Berlin. This is Germany on the left side, and on the right side is the city-state of Berlin. We are a city and one of the 16 German states. You know, we are the capital of Germany. We have a population of 3.5 million people and 12 districts within the city. Next, please. This is our political organization. We have a state parliament, a city-state, and a Länder parliament with a government mayor and 8 Senate offices. One of these offices is the Senate Administration for Finance, where I am state secretary. And on the right side of the slide, you see the 12 districts, which each has an own mayor and an own administration. Next, please. To show you what is the division of powers in the federal states in Germany, you see the division between generally states and generally municipality. The state is education, schools, universities, police, the court system, prison system, financial authorities, and preschool schools, child's care, whereas municipality belongs to public health system, welfare benefits, road construction and maintenance, and for example public parks, and also music schools, education for adults, and so on. This is only to show you the environment where we are doing gender budgeting. Gender budgeting is practiced in Berlin since 2002. This means that we have nearly 15 years of practice in Berlin. Next, please. This is our budget structure. The central administration, our total budget in the city of Berlin is 24.5 billion euro, and from which are 17 billion in the central administration, and each of the 12 districts has a budget of around 500 to over 700 or nearly over 800 million euro. Each has his own financing system, and in this structural framework, we are trying to do gender budgeting information in our budget. This is different to what many other jurisdictions are doing. We are including gender informations in our budget. Next, please. As I told you, we began in 2002. This is the organizational structure. Our state parliament, I showed you already, mandated the Senate. The Senate in Berlin is another word for government. This is our state government, and they founded a state secretary committee on gender equality, and they by themselves founded a gender budgeting working group where all Senate offices, the districts, two representatives of the parliament, and some external helpers are members. This gender budgeting working group works since 15 years and is doing the job of implementation of the gender budgeting in the Berlin city budget. Next, please. How are we doing this exactly? We are first we had to define the steering parameters used by the central administration and the 12 districts. In the central administration, we reviewed the institutional transfers and the personal expenditures. So we asked ourselves, how is the institutional transfer? I show you then some examples. How is the influence of these institutional transfers of men and women? How many money does the group of men and the group of women receiving out of our budget? In the 12 districts on the right side of this slide, we are planning with so-called products. Products is another word for expenditure item. For example, one product is 1 hour of music school, or one book you are taking, or 1 hour in a public bath, or so on, or one ride in a public bus. This is a product, and we have 437 products, and from these we choose 116 in terms of gender budgeting, with a product budget sum of 1.5 billion euro. Next, please. These are examples for gender-related analysis and steering in the districts. This is very popular in Berlin. Music schools, public libraries, sports facilities, youth work, and some others, which every of these, any of these policy fields has generated own gender data. So we look very practically. We look how many men, women, boys or girls are using, for example, these items, these policy fields. Next, please. Very easy. We begin perhaps in our music schools. In Berlin, you must know, music schools and adult trainings is very popular. You can go to learn an instrument, and you can have other items learning, for example, languages or grammar or something like this. This is the example music schools. The instruments are in German, but you can perhaps see what I mean. On top it is trumpet, and trumpet is a more male-oriented instrument. Next is solo singing, then electrical bass, and some other instruments. You can see that some instruments are related more to men or boys, and some are related more to women. And overall, we have more female persons, more women and girls in our music schools. One reason may be that we have more instruments in offer which are related to women. So you can see that overall, I would say more than 60% of the number of students in music schools are women, and now you can make your own mind about this. You can make your own thinking about this. You can see, is that okay for you to have more women, or are you interested to have more boys in music schools? And then you can do oriented with the orientation of your political goals, how you act. This is at the end, this is the reason why we are doing gender budgeting information in our budget. Next, please. Our city budget is has also, this is an excerpt from our original budget. This is how this is exactly how this is looking. Of course, we have translated this into English. Originally, it is in German, but it is exactly the view that you have on our budget. The budget is several thousand pages. One page is this one. Here we give information about the income of men and women in the section 1520 this is the budget department in the Senate Office for Finance. You can see that the monthly income by women is 4,336 euro. By men it is 4,475. So they are rather nearby. The wages of women and men are very, very close at each other, because in our administration the wages and salaries for men and women per person per hour are exactly the same. The reason here is a result of a higher percentage of women have special leave, and more men can be in higher salary brackets, and more men are older and have longer service times. This is one example. The next one, please, is an example from the economic development. This is how we printed in our budget. The term is premiums to private companies for special economic and employment enhancing measures, and in the data below you can see the absolute numbers of men and female, the percentage rate, and the used resources, and you can see that the percentage of men is slightly diminishing, but also it is remaining higher than that of women. That may be an incentive for political action. Also an example from our budget planning. Next, please. Yes, when you begin to do gender budgeting, you have to ask ourselves, we had to ask ourselves how we are managing this. Parliament and government must state clear requirements and clear mandates. We had. Then we had organizational structures headed by the Ministry of Finance. We are sitting together in this working group, but the leading role is in the Ministry of Finance. We are integrating in the annual budget process and not doing additional reports. This is unique in Germany, the integration in the annual budget production process. Then I tell you, be practical, don't do too much theory, be pragmatic, start with the data you have. You may perhaps see that many people say, oh, we don't have any data, we don't have any sex-related data, but then you begin with the data you have, and you will see from year to year you have new ones into the pool. Next, please. In the Berlin districts and Senate administrations, we are practicing gender budgeting competition. This is to make it interesting for the budgeting for the districts to compute new data every year. So we give them money for new ideas, and in the gender budgeting steering group we are discussing the winning concepts and prizes, and the last we had are designing children's playgrounds, women's sports hall, and prophylactic health services in youth work. Every of these new concepts got a prize, which is not a personal prize but for the organization. Women's sports hall may sound a bit strange for you, but we realized that in some areas women like to have their own public sports hall to do their sports without being observed by men, and this was a great practical success. Next, please. Here I show you very shortly the three examples. Design of playgrounds is in a big city like Berlin very important. It's maybe not so important in more rural areas, but in the city of Berlin, playgrounds are sometimes the only green places where mothers can go with their children. And we have developed a checklist how women and men, but also women and mothers like to have playgrounds which are suitable for them and their children. And there are, as a result, the playgrounds design was changed according to these different requirements of beneficiaries. Next one is women's sport facilities. Next one, please. We took one existing sports facilities, the sports building, and analyzed the extended requirements of women, and then we came, this is the last point, to steering the budget through objectives. One objective was to have more women in public sport facilities. We realized that mostly men were in these sports facilities, and a lot of our budget was misused because women had no chance to find sports facilities which was for their own purpose. Third example, please. Next one is health support in work with young people. We learned that health support with young people, which is a big item in the city of Berlin, is very different if you consider boys and girls or teens, male teens and female teens. We have application expertise with concrete projects, and decided in the budget then that we have to spend more money on higher education and more specified projects. Next one. This is how gender budgeting has led to, this is the last example, the so-called target group oriented approach. That means that everybody who is doing budgets has to ask himself how to spend scarce resources justly, that people are content, people like the balance of the budget. It is vitally important to check the impacts achieved with budget funds use. So you have to ask yourself first which target groups benefit primarily from the financial outputs, then which target groups bear the heaviest burden in terms of taxes and levies, and third, which target groups use the facilities provided through state funding, that means which have the secondary benefits we were talking about. And gender budgeting, like we understand it, is a part of a target group oriented approach which allows us to assess public budgets in terms of gender. So next please. If you begin with the work, you have to ask yourself some key questions. First one is, for which policy area is information to be provided on the impacts of budget funds as a priority? The second is, what are the financially relevant areas of expenditure? For instance, development, road construction, personal costs. And then Next one, please. The key question 3. According to what features should a distinction be made when gathering data? You can not only use gender data, but you can do additionally, can take the age, ethnic background, regional impacts. This is important in a city of Berlin with a not only German people, but several ethnic groups in the city with different ages and different regional roots. So you can extend gender budgeting to a multi-target group oriented approach. And the question 4 is, for which policy fields or areas of revenue or expenditure is data already available? So for which other areas must data first be gathered, and which individual projects or measures are financed under program approaches already in the budget, and is additional information necessary? These 4 questions, if you answer them, you can develop a matrix like I show you in my last slide, please. This is a slide we use in the sport promotion. So we take under 18s and 18 to 65 or so, and we make a view on male and female under 18 and over 18, and we have groups. Perhaps group 1 is ethnical Germans and group 2 is ethnical other people coming to the city of Berlin, foreign people. And here we can make a very good analysis on different ages, different sex, and different ethnic or national source. At the end, if you fill out some matrix like this, you have a very good overview on how your budget is working. This is only a proposal. You can do different data picking in every field you want. I showed you how we began and how we developed this in the last 15 years. The role of the finance ministry, our role was to guide this process, to lead this process, but we did not make any pressure on the other service organizations in which way they should decide to move. We in the finance ministry, and now comes the last slide, we in the Senate administration for finance, we are organizing the process. We are taking care that information is collected from all sides of the administration and being printed in our annual budget. So this is our approach. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it was very clear and very helpful. I will I will change the presenter so that Stephanie can share the questions online. So do not hesitate. We have 10 participants to post your question. We have 30 minutes to respond to your questions. I have one, in fact, we had a previous presentation from Bolivia, and you know, our participants are doing exercises too, very concrete ones on their context, and many of them are choosing the area of violence against women. Maybe it's a very complicated question, but there are so many ways to fight against violence, no? So I would like to know if I suppose that you have a specific budget or activities on these thematics, but how could you relate those areas, education, music, etc., to violence? Do you have any analysis of the impact of what you are doing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So we have some smaller programs which deal with violence against women, but this is in terms of the budget, this is not a very important position. We have some so-called women's houses for violated women and their children. We are financed them, but it is not a very large proportion in our budget because the budget is more oriented on social and political and cultural questions. So what we are dealing with is, of course, we are financing activities which deal with violence, but this is not a very important part of our budget because in the city of Berlin, this is not a very big problem compared with others.
Okay, so we could say that you work more on prevention through that kind of access to services, etc.
Yes, we hope so. We work on prevention through education, through equal education systems, through equal coming to sports or cultural cultural events, and we hope that having equal possibilities, equal chances for men and women will help us to avoid violence in families, and this helps.
Okay, thank you. So I will give the mic to Stephanie so that she can read the questions. Again, participants, do not hesitate to post any question you have or ask a question related to your own context and maybe ask for advice. Okay, Stephanie.
I will pass to the first question posed by Marga. Is there any kind of strategy behind the GRB experience in Berlin to assess what is feasible, what could be the next steps, etc.? Who take the decisions about it and how?
The decisions about it, the decisions about this are taken in the gender budgeting steering group. So they decide together which are the next steps. The strategy in the gender budgeting experience is to analyze big parts and every year more parts of the budget in the direction of finding out how many parts of the budget are directed to men and women. So this is the strategy, very budget oriented.
I'll pass to the second question by Marga as well. The GRB experience in Berlin has faced any resistances? If so, how have they been overcome?
You cannot say resistances. Some are more interested and some are less interested. You need a group of, I would say you need a group of deputies in your parliament which is interested in these questions, and you need clear, as I told you, government-driven decision. And in Berlin, we are very happy that nearly all political parties, from the left to the right, nearly all political parties see gender budgeting as a very suitable instrument. They see that this is modern. They see that this belongs to our modern world. You know that in the European community, gender budgeting is a instrument which is very widely spread and recognized. So I would say not any resistances, but some have to be perhaps a bit convinced. But now we are doing this since 15 years, and it is no more the question whether or not. It is the question to develop it every year on.
I'll pass to the third question. The gender budgeting competition has served to increase the interest and the political will of civil servants on the topic, asks Marga.
Yes, this is so. The then gender budgeting competition has very much served to increase the interest and the interest of the civil servants. So they are dealing with the questions. They come together and discuss it. This is very useful and was very useful.
Great. The next question. Is it a common practice to conduct gender-aware beneficiary assessments for designing programs?
No, it is not a common practice. It has been new for these gender topics, but it is not a common practice.
How can the government collect data considering so many elements such as sex, age, ethnic background, etc.? What tools do the government use for collecting the data?
First tools are that you have data when you enter a public bureau. You can give your data. You have to give the data, and then you can watch the data from the participants in sports facilities or in universities, in music, and other trainings associations. The second is you have to ask people. You have to ask enterprises, people who get public money. Everybody who gets public money in Berlin has to give us information who gets from them the money, who is the target group of the organization who gets money. For instance, we ask the cultural organizations, theaters, music. We are asking the health organizations. We are asking the sports organizations. They all have to give us the information, and we are forcing them to give us the information. They were not glad at the beginning. They said, "Oh, some more bureaucracy," but we said, who likes to get public money, he has give you the information. So with this approach, we get the information every year. We began very small. In the first budget, we had only 6 or 10 items where we had the information. Now we have thousands.
I'll pass to the sixth question. What are the next steps planned for improving the GRB initiative? Asks Marga.
It's very easy. We plan to planned to extend the number of items in our budget. More every year more.
The next question asks Lunar, how do you define gender indicators in your strategic plans of the city? Do you have such indicators?
Yes, we have indicators. For instance, it may be in some areas is the indicator that half of the money has to go to each sex. In other areas, it is that the proportion of men and women has to be at a certain percentage. You know, it is not the 50-50 rates are not very useful in every case. It is not useful to say it as a goal that 50% of the prisoners must be women. No, in these cases, no 50-50 rates, but we have others in social areas where this is a good goal. It has to be defined. Every public expenditure item has to be defined for itself to have a gender indicator in every political area.
Okay, I'll pass the next question. Greetings from Mozambique. Our question is centered around political will to adopt GRB. How have you assured high political will to adopt GRB initiatives at all levels and in all line ministries without putting pressure, as you said? Best, Lecida and Boaventura.
Yes, this was, as I tried to explain, this was part of our gender budgeting initiation strategy. We had state parliament and government votes. They said do gender budgeting, and the gender budgeting steering group had a very strong influence. It is very had very strong influence, and the mandates of the state parliament to the Senate, to our government, and the political will of the government was stated very clearly. So if you go into the ministries and say to the people, so we have a new analysis instrument, this is gender budgeting, we need it politically, this is our political will, then they had no chance to adopt the initiatives. But it took some years. You have to make, I would say, offense. You have to make information broad information systems to take them with you. An information offensive, I would say, has to be done to take every of the higher levels of the government with you, but the government officials with you. But if you say we have a state parliament will and a government will, they cannot do other than to help you. I assured this high political will is asked also by the parliament, because they can see the budget numbers every year in our budget. So if we went to the parliament with our budget and would say them that the data are not in the budget, then we had a very big problem, and this would not work. So the political will, you say, we have the political will because we can win elections with the topic gender. This must be clear.
I'll pass to the 9th question by Elizabeth. In many countries, GRB is starting. Could you tell us about the history of GRB in Berlin, and if you can talk about the role of the civil society?
The history I mentioned in my presentation. It is 2002 were the first votes in the parliament, then 2003 in the Senate, and then 15 years of work in every budget. So this is the history we had in the city of Berlin. The role of the civil society was via the parliament. They can read all our data in the parliament, and we were helped by external groups who came into our gender budgeting working group and working with us there in the group. This is once a month we meet, and there we invite external helping women's organization, for example, to come there and share with us their view on this theme.
Our next question by Sigrid is, have there been any initiatives or indicators in relation to reduction of the time spent by women to care services to allow them more participation in other areas?
We know that this is a a problem. What we had in Berlin with our budget approach, we had no such initiatives or indicators. No, not here.
Well, unless anyone would like to pose another question, that has been our last question.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well,
thank you.
If there is time for one more, unless...
Yes, do you have one?
Yes, Marga just sent one. I'll post it. Is there any participatory space mechanism to allow civil society to participate in the planning decision?
Yes, we have, not on the whole basis of the budget, but in the districts, we have so-called civil budgets. So that means that a part of the district's budgets has a reservation for society participation. So you can vote on between 5 and 10% of the budget of the districts according to your own views. So this is local, this is municipal. You can vote on what you have to like in the districts, but this is only around 5 to 10% of the budget volume.
Okay,
so they can participate. They can participate by voting, by coming to caucuses, and there say in our districts we like to have more bicycle routes, for example, or we have to we like to have more parks, or we have to like to have more sports facilities. And with these participation in the districts, we change the budget according to the civil servants, to the civil society wants and wishes.
Great,
Excellent.
thank you.
I think to close this discussion and presentation, I would like to ask you, from your point of view, with all those years of experiences, what could you say what are the positive impacts of doing GRB? What is the added value in terms of...
The added, yes. Yes, it is a very strong political value. You can show that the equality of sexes has to be tried in all areas of the society. This is not only concerning of the budget, but it is in public enterprises, the supervisory boards, in public services, in top positions in public services. We try to have equal participation of both sexes, of men and women, in leading positions in the society, and in the participation of budgets. And this develops over the years, and this is, I would say, that the main reason is, the biggest point is that people know that equal rights for men and women are just normal, are a political must you have to have. And so over the years this is developing. This is the main thing, and therefore we need gender budgeting.
Okay, very good. It's 10:52 here, so we have some minutes. I will give the microphone to Margarita if she wants to add something. Marga? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Feiler. Your presentation has been very informative, and this last sentence has been very inspiring for all of us. We have only some minutes, so I will be very, I will share some highlights. Mr. Feiler has shared the GRB experience in Berlin. I think that this is clearly a good case example for study. I would like to highlight one of the good practices that you have highlighted, to be practical. So I think that sometimes when we start to work or to study GRB, we see that there are so many things to take into consideration: the policies, the budgets, the monitoring and evaluation mechanisms, etc. And sometimes we can feel that we are lost and we don't know how to do what can be an entry point. So I think that this is a very good advice, to be pragmatic, to be practical, to start with the data you have. So I think that it's important to start with the action, no? Not just the theory, yes, but to start to do something. And also I think that it's interesting to see how the experience in Berlin, it started 15 years ago, but every year there is a possible area of improvement. So it's a long-term process, no? It's a process that every year get improved, and there is a thinking behind all that. So I think also that this is a good key message. I don't know if you would like to add something else.
Yes, I would say that it is a value of its own to do it for a long period, to be practical, to do it within the budget. So everybody who reads the budget numbers and reach the gender numbers into the budget. So it is part of our just normal economic and budgetary life. And everybody knows that budget organization and the case of women and men are have to be seen together. So this is the normal budgetary life. And I say to every civil servant here, you have to do this together with your daily work, and then it is okay.
Yeah, this makes me think a lot of a conversation we had in a training about if civil servants just have to apply this new way of doing budgeting, or if they should be convinced about gender equality. So from my point of view, they have to understand the political thing behind that. But we had all a discussion in one training once. So
I know.
personally, what I like in your presentation is that you link very much the practical aspects of the budget. We have to make it practical. What does that mean for services, etc.? But you also show that this is how to implement a political stand, let's say, on gender equality.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that
It is very political and practical too, and not
Yes.
very theoretical.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much again for your time. Of course, we wish you the best in your work on
Yes.
GRB and for gender equality. And I hope we can keep in touch. And I say thank you also for participants who connected. As you know, this web conference is recorded, and we will send you the link very soon. We will also share, with the permission of Mr. Fehler, your presentation. Can we share it?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You can take my presentation and everybody can have a look at it. If you have questions, or to all participants, you can send me an email and I try to answer.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend. Almost.
Thank you very much. We have very good weather in Berlin. It is very warm. So the summer is coming. Thank you very much to all participants. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.